That's it.
Starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ashland Planning Board meeting of Thursday, February 26th. Just a reminder to everyone that we are recording and broadcasting. I will be calling the meeting to order at, what did you say,
7:18?
7:18, thank you. And the first item on our agenda is a joint meeting between the Planning Board and the Select Board, who is here with us today. We do have several members online, and on the Planning Board too, we have one member online. Do you need to
I need to
officially
open up
open
a
your meeting,
section, yeah.
please?
So at 7:20, I open the Select Board meeting, joint meeting with the Planning Board on February 26th.
All right, so then the first thing on our agenda is the housing production plan. And Jasmine, I'll let you introduce whoever needs to be introduced and however that's supposed to get started.
Thank you. We have Jen Goldson from JM Goldson online. She's going to be presenting the housing production plan draft to us this evening. How are you, Jen?
I'm good. I'm doing great. Nice to see you all.
You as well. And I believe you also have at least Flavio with your team as well.
Flavio's also with us. Yes.
Excellent.
Hello.
Hi, Flavio. Thank you both so much for joining us. So I think.
So I do have a presentation. I'm going to share my screen. Is that all right?
Absolutely. Yes, please.
Yeah, that's great. I think we might need the volume turned up just a little bit.
Okay. How does that look to everyone?
Yeah, I think it looks
It's
good.
fine. You may make it bigger, it's fine by me too. but it's okay.
Perfect. All right, good. I just want you all to know that when I have this screen share up, I actually can't see you right now. So if there's any questions or anything, or any issues, just interrupt me, because I just don't have my eyes on you right now.
We're just gonna make sure we have the volume up loud
Oh,
enough here.
okay, sure. I can also look for my volume to make sure it's up enough. Is that any better?
Yes,
Oh, much
that's great.
better.
Yeah, I think that was the issue on my end. Sorry about that. Okay, perfect. So, so happy to be here. I'm Jen Goldson. I think I've met everyone, everyone on both boards. But if I haven't, I'm Jen Goldson. I'm the founder and managing director of JM Goldson, and we were very pleased to work with Ashland for a couple of years to do the comprehensive plan that was just recently adopted. And then this was a much shorter project. We really looked at the comprehensive plan very closely to do this housing production plan. And I'll just walk you through a little bit of where we are with the draft. But first, I also want to introduce my colleague, Flavio Villa. Although Flavio was not as visible as some of the other members of my team, he actually did work a lot on the Ashland Comprehensive Plan too, from behind the scenes. So Flavio and I worked closely on this plan, and he's here to support as well. All right, so I'll go through just some background. So we have an 8-stage process where we focus on discovering and understanding. We prepare a comprehensive housing needs assessment. Then we start to do some ideating and brainstorming and proposing ideas. And we do that really in partnership with the town and with community members. And I'll talk a bit more about the engagement. And then we start to test ideas and decide on those goals and strategies. And that's essentially where we are, testing and deciding. We wanted to present tonight to just show you where the draft plan is in terms of the draft goals and strategies, which is what we'll focus on in this presentation, and just get your feedback. Do you think we're moving in the right direction here? Are there any goals or strategies that you'd like to see different, or things that we didn't think of that you'd like to see added? And then we'll develop an action plan. I do think we have a draft in there, but we can certainly refine that. And it's much shorter than the comprehensive plan, but it's essentially a matrix that shows you which strategies to do at what time over the next 5 years. This is a 5-year plan. And then who would be responsible for that typically we look at, town departments as well as town boards or committees who are responsible. And then at the final stage is committing. And so a housing production plan would need to be approved by both the planning board and the select board. So it's wonderful that we're able to do this as a joint presentation so that you can hear each other's questions and we can get, maybe some direction from both boards tonight. And then the next step would be for us to revise that plan, the draft, according to your comments, and send it back to you for consideration. Usually at that point, it's individual meetings, the next regular meeting of the planning board, the next regular meeting of the select board after we do the revisions is typically when they would just vote to adopt. And that's it. And then it can go to the state. And I know we're trying to finish in March, by the end of March, so that we can get it out to the state in time before the plan expires. The state does have really a few months, depending on how you slice it, but they have 30 days to determine if it's complete, and then they have 90 days to basically vote, not vote, but to consider approval at the state level. So when you add it up, it could be 4 months, but it's really never that long in my experience. So a couple of months is a little bit more standard. So that's why we set this March deadline. Okay, so that's a little bit about the process. Tonight, I'm going to focus on those draft 5-year goals and the menu of strategies that we came up with as a draft. I've already presented on the housing needs assessment and the development constraints, including at the public forum, which I think many of you attended. So I'm not going to go into any depth on those tonight, but of course, if you have questions for us, happy to answer those. All right, so where did these ideas come from? We had the benefit of just working on the comprehensive plan. So a lot of the ideas are directly taken from the comprehensive plan. We really wanted to make sure there was very strong alignment with the comprehensive plan. We also held a public forum, both in person and online. We did an asynchronous online version of the public forum. We did interviews as well as preparing the housing needs assessment, trying to understand with updated data from what we did in the comprehensive plan, housing needs. We did look at previous local plans, and then one of those, of course, was the comprehensive plan. All right, so now I'm just going to dive right into those 5-year goals. And I believe you all got a copy of the draft plan in your packet. Could someone just say verbally, because I can't see you, is that true?
I think they were emailed out to everyone, right?
Unfortunately, the select board did not, it not get forwarded until tonight. So for the select board members, this is new. I mean, not completely new, but.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. All right, so so the first goal, and although I like to say these are not really in any order, we do like to try to think a little bit about the order. And I know that maintaining safe harbor is extremely important. So we did put that as the first goal. Sustain the subsidized housing inventory above the 10% benchmark. And that's something that we heard in all of the engagement, that we want to keep ourselves above the 10% so that we have the local control that we want to determine what projects we support in the the
Jen, I'm so sorry. May I just record this to my cloud as well, really quickly?
Oh, of course.
Julie, you were speaking. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much.
Recording in progress.
Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so maintaining safe harbor is the first goal in the draft plan. And just forward, there we go. Also, there are certain things that we pulled out of the comprehensive plan. There are also things that the state is looking for us in terms of the guidelines for how to write these, and luckily they matched. And one of them is unlock diverse housing choices, proactively expand the range of housing types, sizes, and price points to meet the needs of changing aging population. And so that may not be exactly how we worded things in the comprehensive plan, but it's in line with the type of goal that the state is looking for. Goal 3, secure affordability and stability, increasing the production and preservation. This is really focused around more deeply affordable housing. So many of you may know that when you have a 40B comprehensive permit, the requirement is that the development produces units that are affordable to what we call lower moderate income, or 80% of the area median income. That's kind of the top of the affordable income ranges. But what we've actually found, and some of you who heard our earlier presentations may remember, is that it's really those more deeply affordable units that are much more needed at that local level in Ashland, and especially for households at 30% of the area median income and under, who could face risk of housing instability, cost burdens, and a lot of those are likely seniors. So that was something that came out as important. Growing with intention and investment, planning and funding strategic investments in your facilities, your services, your infrastructure to support anticipated housing growth. And that's something we also tried to be very conscious of in the comprehensive plan, and came out in the feedback as well that we got on this plan. And then the fifth goal, strengthening capacity and coordination. We almost always say something like this because in almost every community we've worked in, there's always something that can be done to strengthen capacity at the local level and coordination. And so this goal focuses on ensuring interdepartmental coordination, which I know you are already doing, but it's, continuing that. And then empowering staff and boards with things like updated zoning tools, clear guidance, etc. All right, so I'm going to jump into the menu of strategies, and then I'm happy to take questions. So we do view this as more of a roadmap or a menu, and I know I talked to many of you already about the same thing when we look at the comprehensive plan strategies. I said the same thing, so I might sound a little bit like a broken record, but I view the housing plan as in the same way, that this is not a blueprint. It doesn't mean you need to absolutely implement every single one of these ideas. They're really ideas that are in line with the goals that I just presented, but also in line with the types of things the state is looking for when they look to approve these plans. And so we view it as a roadmap. When you have a housing production plan and it gets approved by the state, you have the ability, if you do fall under the 10% goal that the state has, if you do fall under again, you have the ability to get safe harbor with this plan by some incremental production, even if you can't get up to that 10% goal right away. And the reason I say this on this slide is because it doesn't really matter how you make that incremental production. It doesn't matter if you do it in a way that is exactly in the housing production plan. If you have an approved housing production plan at the state and you make that incremental production in any way that you can, regardless of what this plan says, you still get the certification in the safe harbor. So I'm not trying to belittle the importance of this plan, but I just want to put it in perspective. It's certainly in no way mandating that you do really any of these strategies. So that's why one reason that we like to present it as a roadmap with a lot of ideas, and some of them you may really focus on and others may not end up working out for whatever reason. And that's okay. It doesn't lessen the importance of having an approved plan for the purposes of keeping you in safe harbor if you ever fall under that 10%. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Usually I can see nodding heads, but right now all I see is my slide. So the strategies are organized under planning and policy tools, local action, things that you can, well, okay, let me back up. Planning and policy tools, by that we mean a lot of those recommendations are zoning, or they could be studies, things like that. Anything that's more regulatory or planning related. The second is local action, things you can do with your own local funds, land that you may have, and volunteer capacity, as well as staffing capacity, and even housing programs that you could run either at a local level or fund an organization to run for Ashland on your behalf. So that's examples of local action and housing programs. And then 3 is that engagement and capacity building, and we wanted to provide you with some ideas for that as well. So the planning and policy tool, I'm not going to go through every one. There are quite a lot of strategies. And as I said, we wanted to give you a menu of choices. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have on specific ones. But just to keep this at a little bit of a higher level, under the planning and policy tools, those really focus on essentially critical updates to zoning, unlocking underutilized land, supporting that broader range of housing types, including that more gentle density, missing middle, not so much the large, many hundreds of units developments, and not as small as that, the typical single family house, but a broader range of things more in between that. Elevating zoning amendments that enhance affordability, ways to really encourage affordability, especially at that more deeply affordable level, that 30% AMI. Under local action and housing programs, we look at how can you catalyze affordable or mixed income housing, even on land you own, or by kind of signing on to a local initiative program, a friendly 40B, people call it. That might be it's not something you have to do, especially if you're over the 10% goal from the state, but it's something you still can do to especially support your housing needs, such as those deeply affordable units. So those are just some tools in your toolbox around local action, strengthening your affordable housing trust, preserving expiring units, supporting seniors aging in the community. So those are all just examples of the types of things that can be in that category. And I did include the maps that are in the plan, just showing one of the things we're required to do by the state guidelines for housing production plans is to identify specific private as well as public sites that could be encouraged for housing development to meet your housing needs. And so we don't have to pick as many as we did, but if you have any specific points of view about which ones you want to show and which you don't, it doesn't bind you to anything to show these. But what we tried to pick out were private property with redevelopment potential. Maybe there are already buildings and uses there, but perhaps they're underutilized, or there's an opportunity for redevelopment. And then private undeveloped in that teal color. The private with redevelopment is in that like orangey mustard color. And then we also identified vacant town-owned parcels, and that's that purpley. Now you might say, nope, no way, no how, don't want these on the list. Totally fine. We just need to look, we need to, first of all, say that we looked at both private and public town-owned opportunities. And then we have to at least identify one in each category at a minimum. And if we can't do that for some reason, we need to state, we did attempt to do this and we looked at all the vacant town-owned parcels, but for this reason and that reason and this reason, we were not able to find a suitable parcel. We can say that, but we just have to be super clear that we did the analysis, or the state won't approve the plan. So we took I guess the more, in my mind, conservative approach, and we tried to show as many as we could find. But if you want to walk us back on any of these for whatever reason, certainly let us know.
Jan, this is Claudia. I'm just curious, how does Ashland compare in terms of these types of properties that would be potentially available to be utilized in this way? How's it compare to other communities? Do we have?
It varies so much. We just finished a plan in Woburn, and they were looking really more at old motel or hotel properties that are either vacant or really kind of, in not great condition, and they look like they're probably going to be redeveloped soon. They also had an old school building that was surplus that they identified for their town-owned property. It really varies. Other communities have a much broader, like they have us list all of the tax title properties that are, or tax foreclosed properties that are over a certain size and potentially developable. And some have just, some communities have a much larger inventory of tax foreclosed and others have a smaller. We just finished working in Stoneham, and we identified some areas in their downtown where they could potentially have some infill development, as well as areas in their MBTA district. That is something that we've been able to do in many communities, is look at their MBTA district and identify specific mostly private properties that could have some development potential. And it doesn't mean you necessarily have to do anything, especially if it's already in a district that would allow that kind of development, like in the MBTA district. But if it's if it's a public property, what we would say in the strategy is that you would consider these public properties as potential for affordable developments, and consider, we'd use words like study or consider issuing a request for proposals for an appropriate development. And it could even be a combination of open space, conservation, and affordable. So you could do it in lots of different ways. Does that help answer your question? Was
So
that Claudia, I think?
Jen, just to continue with that, is that a requirement of a housing production plan to call out different properties of different categories?
Yes.
In that way, that's something that needs to be included in any town's housing production plan?
Correct. In fact, the state will kick it back to us if we don't talk about this at all. We don't, like I said before, we don't need to include this many, but we do need to at least include one in the private category and one in the public. I've found that that's the kind of the minimum.
So,
But, yeah, oh, go ahead.
so Jen, I'm looking at this, and unfortunately, there's a portion of the map we can't see because of the picture. And do
yes.
you have Olive Street identified as a potential
Flavia, could
location? This is Yolanda.
Could you, yeah, I recognize your voice. Flavio, could you just confirm, because I think not, but maybe we missed that.
Because I think
No.
Olive Street would be
Also-
a parcel that we should add, and certainly the one up by the town forest is not one.
Okay, Jen, also I have to mention that all the parcels here were mentioned during the engagement process. So Nickerson Road, Mengonca Road, Oregon Road, Pond Street, all of these, like some of these also came from our analysis and our improvement to land ratio.
Okay,
But
that's
like-
good to know.
But
Yeah,
many of these were mentioned during the open house and during the survey.
yeah, okay, thank you. That's good to know. I think that, regardless, it's a good background note. Regardless, I think the select board and planning board can take any off that they feel are not appropriate or put any on. So Olive Street, and then this parcel right here by the town forest, can you see my
Correct.
cursor? Yeah,
And
Okay.
the two in the purple and blue in the right-hand side,
Yeah.
I'm 90% sure that those are conservation lands. One of them was just donated to the town, I think, and we passed that, like, they're working on it last fall.
okay. So
Not
we
that
should probably
parcel,
take,
not those parcels. I mean, those are parcels that we've just, the town has owned, we just,
but isn't
we
it all
just purchased
wetlands,
them, but
though?
it's mostly wetlands, yeah.
Yeah, that's-
So the purple and blue on the right side of the map, I also
Yeah.
think should just,
take
I
off.
don't even know that they're buildable.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then, just a quick question, you can't zoom in on yours, but I can on mine. The little purple section, right in the middle of town, that's like
Yeah.
where we have, that's like where the farmer's market is done, right? That's like the parking lot.
Yeah, I
where-
think that's right.
Okay.
It's the parking lot and
And
farmer's
isn't,
market,
wasn't that section actually purchased with
affordable housing
affordable
money.
housing money, right? So,
Actually,
Right.
Affordable Housing Trust actually owns it.
okay.
Yeah.
So it is available, but it would mean,
We'd have to make a decision as to whether or not we want to move the farmer's market.
yeah, okay.
Right,
I
same.
just, got it. I just wanted to understand like how, like I understand why we put these here, but I wanted to understand how viable do these have to be? I mean, like we can just mark up a bunch of stuff, but like how viable does it have to be to actually get approval? Like I'm fine with leaving the big swath of purple and blue on the other side as long as we know that that isn't actually gonna happen.
Yeah,
But I just
I
wanted to be
guess
like, what, how realistic does this have to be?
Yeah, I would advise for your own sake, not so much for the state's sake, but for your own sake to pick parcels that you think actually are pretty viable. Like if we think these are mostly wetlands or conservation areas, then let's
Yeah,
take them.
I would run this map by the Conservation Committee, would probably give you the fastest.
Sure.
I don't even think we need to do that. I think those of us
Okay.
sitting here are familiar
Yeah.
enough that I
Just
would
know.
say certainly the purple section in the left near the town forest.
Yeah,
It goes
take it
right
out.
into the town forest. We don't want to see that developed. And the parcel, the blue, the blue is, that's privately owned, so they can make a decision. But the purple on the right side of the map, I would say that that's not viable. But
Yeah.
we do need to look at Olive Street because we do have a parcel there that we have talked about putting housing on.
Okay, so we'll look at that one and
Okay.
and Flavia will reach out to Jasmine if we can't figure out exactly which one it is.
Okay.
All right, very good. So, and yeah, just let me know if you have any other thoughts on this map, but the comments you gave me now are noted and we'll make those changes. This is just a blown up version, basically. So I probably should have just flipped to this when you were talking about town center, but yeah, these are both in the draft plan. So if you have thoughts on them, let me know. And like I said before, we don't need to have so many. So if there are things you're like, I'm not sure, let's just take it out. That's fine, as long as we have basically the minimum is one of each category, one of public and one of private. That is the minimum we need to identify. But I actually don't love just doing one, because that seems a little bit more like we're going to do it if there's just one. Just the perception of that. So I'd rather have a few, just as a perspective kind of advice, but take it or leave it. Okay, and then the last category would be that community engagement and capacity building, and that's really just all around communication, coordination, leadership, helping residents stay informed, boards collaborate with each other, and getting basically the capacity to implement things. Okay, so our next steps is, if you want a few days, we do want to get this submitted by the end of March. So we were hoping that maybe by Monday, if that's okay. I think you all have the plan now, even though you didn't all get it in advance. If you could just send Flavio comments on Monday, that would be terrific. And then we can make any edits and then submit to you all for I'd like to get some clarity on when you might take this up for a vote, so that we can make sure to revise it to get in your packet for whatever that vote is. Could you give me some clarity around when you might take that up this month?
And I think you said that the boards can do it separately, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, well, we have 2 meetings in March. So to get it submitted in March, I assume would want to start talking about it at our next meeting, because there'll be 2 more chances.
Does it get voted on at town meeting too?
No. So Claudia, when would those dates be then?
So 3/4 and 3. No, we have a meeting on 3/4.
Yeah, that was the question I had.
3/18.
This is Makita. That's the question I had. So if we're going to get comments back to them on the 2nd, if we want to discuss this during our upcoming meeting, I think we want to provide comments maybe after our upcoming meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
That's just too soon.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I
thanks.
just didn't know your schedule, and I was trying to make sure to get this done quickly for you. But I think if you want to wait till after the 3/4
Is
meeting,
it on our agenda for Wednesday?
Is it?
If not, we should add it
Yeah.
Yeah.
on the
We
4th.
have one next week.
Right, we have a meeting next week. You guys had an agenda setting meeting.
Right.
Maybe not yesterday because of people traveling.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, so if it's not on our agenda, we need to add it to our agenda for next Wednesday.
Yeah, and for us, it would be the 12th.
We need to review the housing production plan draft at our meeting on Wednesday, the 4th.
Well, today's Thursday, so I
We
can
can
have
still,
Sue.
she can update it tomorrow, it's still
Yeah,
time.
we update it tomorrow. That'll give us 48 hours.
And for us, it would be the 12th and the 26th would be our meeting dates. But as far as the comments for Monday, those are also individual comments too, right? It's not necessarily
Right, it doesn't have
comments
to
that
be
have to be
reviewed
made
and
by
just- right.
a group. It can be if you're reading through and you have some comments, you can send them forward.
correct.
So,
Sorry, I just have a question, so this will help me when I send my comments or not send my comments. How realistic do these, I like our goals, how realistic do they have to be goals? You mentioned about the secure affordability, especially the deep affordability. But if you try to zone something where you say you want that much affordability, then the builder has to have much more expensive units in there to make profit. And they're not gonna build if they can't make profit. So how do we balance out that goal? Cause I think it'd be kind of weird to have this really deep affordable housing and then luxury penthouse type suites on the top. Not that I think Ashland would pull off a luxury penthouse type style, but to get the builder to make profit, they're not gonna build it if they don't make money. So how
I
accurate do these goals have to be?
Yeah, so what we suggest when you get a chance to read through the strategies, let me know if you have questions about it still, but what we tried to do is think about what kind of incentives would we need to allow for private development to encourage them so that the numbers work, so that it pencils out. But the other thing is, if you are doing a request for proposals on your own town land, and you're basically giving the land for free or for a very low amount, you can ask for, you can potentially get 100% affordable, mission-driven developer to create deeply affordable units, because you're really subsidizing the land cost. So that's another creative way, not just asking the private market to respond by giving them incentives, because you would have to give them pretty big incentives to do that, as you know, and as you said. But when you're the owner, you can actually get, more deeply affordable units in a way that's a little easier than relying on the private market, because you have the land, and that's worth a lot. Does that make sense?
It does, but again, I was just wanting to understand the feasibility of these things. So do you have examples maybe of like where towns have given up portions of their land to have an affordable housing
Yeah, I mean,
unit
there's
go
a
in?
ton of examples of towns issuing requests for proposals for deeply affordable and all affordable projects, so that there's not even any market rate. You can have a mix of incomes with middle income, 80%, 50%, 30%. I could certainly send some examples if that's helpful, but there are lots of towns, especially lots of old schools have been converted in that way. There's been other lands that have been developed like into smaller, like Habitat for Humanity. There's been a lot of like examples of tax foreclosed properties that housing trusts have taken on to basically select I'm going to say a developer like Habitat. There aren't really many developers like Habitat. It's usually is Habitat, but that's the kind of thing that can be deeply affordable and all affordable. So there are lots of examples of these kind of municipal land dispositions for creation of those all affordable or deeply affordable.
I'd be interested in seeing that too, information
of
about
course.
communities. One question I have too, earlier, you mentioned that, I think it was a strategy for how to increase your affordable housing. One of them was to, any units that were coming off of affordability, extending that. Do we, and maybe this isn't a question that maybe you have the answer to, but do we have units in Ashland that are coming off affordability?
Most of our affordable units right now are in perpetuity.
That's what I thought. So,
Ashland House.
Except that the Ashland House, right, it was brought up.
That's a private entity.
Right, and it says they're expiring in 2027, so that might be something that we would want to look at, how we can help them continue to have them as affordable units.
Exactly.
are they affordable or are they age restricted?
Affordable.
The affordable, which may be also age restricted. I'm not really
I think
sure.
Ashland House also has an age.
Well, I'm not sure about
Yeah, I'm
that.
not sure for sure, but yeah. And
So they can be
those are
both.
things.
They can be affordable and age restricted.
Yes,
They
yeah.
can be. Mhm.
yep, and that's something that the Affordable Housing Trust works on to, they identify units that are possibly going off, and then we look at strategies to try and maintain them. And as Joe said, if it's a private entity, we have to work with them to do that.
Right. And it may be that, the town has funds like CPA funds to help strike a deal. Oftentimes it involves refinancing and it involves other fundings, not just local funds, but you can be part of that conversation and help, help that deal go forward.
Jen, this is Joe Mignani. In years past, the Affordable Housing Trust has provided certain funding to developers to maintain affordable units. We just did that a few years ago at 12 Pond Street. And we subsidized the builder with some of our funding to help create that. And those units are in perpetuity. That was a must. So, yeah,
Great.
we've done that already.
Great.
Okay.
Good.
What- so-
Any other questions for us?
Yeah, I have another one. What, do you know, does the state currently have some programs aside from 40B to help communities incentivize developers? Or do they have money that might be available to communities that they themselves want to pursue this?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of state programs that help to subsidize affordable housing development, in the private market, and those developers, you know, they benefit from, there's a state one-stop application that they fill out and can be paired with different funds that would be useful, but I'm not sure if that's your question, so tell me if I'm not answering it correctly.
Yeah, no, it's helpful, but I'd
I
like
don't
to.
know that there's money for towns to say, okay, we're gonna build affordable housing.
Right.
No, because
I think it's
yeah.
developers can apply,
Correct.
and there's different, like, you know, there's different programs, not just 40B, but there's other, like, there's the 40R. Robert Hill Way was built
Right.
with some state and federal funding for, and that's all, that building is completely affordable.
Well, even the project at 501 Pond Street, which was approved by the planning board several years ago now.
Right.
Is in the process of pursuing deeper discount housing that they're doing through different funding you know, their choice to do through different funding mechanisms. And that has come back to the planning board as they have pursued that, so.
Right, because they're really looking to do deeper affordability, which is nice.
Yeah, that's what they're looking at, so. Jasmine just saw on the agenda, I don't know, what
Sorry, on my calendar, so there's
calendar?
when we had met initially with J.M. Goldson, we had created a large sort of itinerary of when we needed to get done, timeline. In March 12th, we had designated as a joint meeting with the planning board and select board to review the draft housing production plan as well. Is that, Jen, did you still have that on?
Well, okay, I'm sorry, I might have misunderstood that. I saw that on Flavia's list, but I said, that's what we're doing tonight. So I
Okay,
ended up
thank you.
like saying,
Okay.
I think this is wrong. Okay. I think that they can just talk about it in their boards,
Thank
their
you.
regular meetings at this point. Yeah, rather than trying to have another joint meeting.
But also, Madam Chair, while I have Ms. Goldson's attention, we did actually have our conservation agent just give a few notes on the map that you had shown. If I may,
Great.
Madam Chair, it's just 3 notes.
Yeah, please.
That the south side of our Oregon Site 1 is Briasco Soccer Field, and the purple parcel is the town forest and is part of Article 97. Site 7 on the map is Beaver Dam Brook, which is a conservation area and is 100% wetlands. And Site 1 on the plan is also 100% wetlands.
Okay, we'll take those off. I'm sorry. You know, they must have been things that the community members suggested and then we just kind of blindly put them in. So I apologize that
Thank
we
you
missed
so
that.
much.
Yeah.
And thank you, Becca Solomon, for giving us the information.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, anything else for us?
I'm just trying to understand the goals for the, you know, to meet your timeline. So it sounds like each board in the upcoming 2 weeks will be meeting and talking about the plan in greater detail. And then are we sending questions at that time? Or are we voting at that time? We're just-
You know, do you mind if I
No,
chime in?
please, I want to try
I
to
guess I
understand what
would
the goal is.
say, I think it would crunch the end of the process to wait till, for example, the planning board's meeting on the 12th, I think.
Right.
I would prefer, if it's okay with you all, to get comments before that, even if they are those individual comments. And I think the select board meeting on the 4th, that's fine. If you can get us comments like on the 5th or something, we can start making those revisions. And then if you're meeting on the 12th planning board, would your packet go out on the 5th?
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm not sure that we can make the 5th deadline if we only get the comments in on the 5th.
We send out your meeting materials the week before the meeting usually.
Yeah, that's true. But I think you can, I think whenever they're available, if before our meeting, if they can just be sent. You know,
Okay,
we try to get it out a week ahead of time, but obviously that certainly doesn't always happen and would rather have the comments, even if they're late, even if we're discussing them at the meeting, we would like to have them.
Okay, so what we could do is, select board, do you think it's realistic to get us the comments the day after your meeting?
We'll try like heck.
I think
Okay.
we probably
I
could.
have to ask my clerk if she.
I think we probably
Gemini.
could.
Okay, that's fine. And then, so that, I think what we could then do is, I don't know how substantial they'll be, but we can turn it around as quickly as possible. But why don't we say at the very latest by the end of the day on Monday, the 9th, we could send it to the planning board revised, showing the changes. And then you can have it, a few days ahead of that meeting on the 12th. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I think that's fine. And we can obviously do our homework ahead of time, and then especially if the changes are possible to be highlighted in some way, so that they kind
Yeah.
of jump out at us as
Absolutely.
what's different. Then we can.
Absolutely.
We can review those and.
And then would we as a select board have to join you on that meeting, or could we then wait until the next Wednesday, the 18th, which is our next meeting, to approve the plan?
I think that would be fine. If the planning board approved on the 12th, the select board approved on the 18th, and you can still approve it with, there's just a few more changes, Jen, that's fine.
Okay.
As long as you can vote to approve it with those changes. Then we can make the changes and get it back to Jasmine. And then, Jasmine, you could submit. Mhm.
Okay.
That work for you?
So I actually had a question related to that, Jen. If we submit to the state and they haven't approved it yet, but our other housing production plan expires, are we still covered because we have a new one that's been voted in town? Or are we then in limbo between when it expires and when they approve our new one?
Okay, so sometimes I have a slide on this, so listen carefully, because it's a little complicated. So they'll approve it retroactively to when you submitted a complete plan.
Okay,
And by complete, I mean, it meets all those things that I just said.
okay,
Assuming we submit a complete plan on whichever day, let's just say it was March 31st, and they take 30 days to determine it was complete. Then they have another 90 days to determine whether they're going to approve it or not, and your plan's already expired. As long as we submitted that complete plan and then they approve that complete plan, it's approved retroactively to the date we submitted the complete plan.
okay.
There's a risk if we submit it, either they say it's not complete, then we have to fix something, submit it again, and then the clock starts again. The other risk is if they don't approve it for some reason, but I've never had them not approve it. They've always, if there's anything that gets kicked back, they're like, oh no, we want this appendix in there, or, we already know that now. So, so it shouldn't get kicked back, but I can't guarantee it. But it is retroactive to the day you submit the complete plan. So that gives you some protection. Does
So
that
as
make
long as we submit it before our other ones expires, we should be okay.
You should be. I would rather have a little time to fix it if
Yeah,
there's something
I
they
agree.
don't
When
like.
does our current one actually expire?
Is it the end of June, Jasmine? I don't have that date in front of me.
It's actually in May. I don't have the exact date.
Oh,
but
it's
in
May. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we should be, with this timing, we should be okay.
Right, and so if anything, if any changes or questions, or
Yeah.
if there's any changes that either group brings up that you feel, Jen, are going too close to the line, you're going to let us know.
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
fine. And the
Okay.
biggest one that they've kicked back that I've found is if you don't say there's at least one private parcel and at least one town-owned parcel.
It's May 19th is what the
Okay.
expiration date.
So we want to think generously about those things, because they're not, you have to use it, but it might be a possibility. It's something that we should look at.
Yep.
It's not a give, okay.
All right, well, thank you. If there's no other questions.
I was just wanted to ask, we do have a few members online, and I cannot even see their faces right now because of the way the screens are, but if there's any questions from board members who are online, somehow you might have to.
I think it's just myself, Anna, and I don't have any questions on this. Thank you.
I think Brandy's
Brandy's
out there, too.
online as well.
Oh, okay.
I'm good.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you very much. Thanks,
Okay.
Jen.
All right, so
Thanks, Jen, it was good seeing you.
Thank you, everyone. Good to
Thank
see you
you.
too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
so
For all
much.
your work.
Bye.
Okay, so we all know the assignment, I guess, as they say. All right, next on our agenda is the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee. I'm going to turn this one over to Anna and Yolanda, who I think have been kind of spearheading
Sure.
that committee.
Sure.
I'll just speak briefly that after a multi-year process that was great partnership between the planning board and the select board and town management, we as a comprehensive plan committee, together with our consultant, came up with a way to implement or create the implementation committee. The implementation committee is a key component of the success of a comprehensive plan in communities. And the comprehensive plan itself has mention of it, of how it should be set up. And then Yolanda and myself, mostly Yolanda, I gave Yolanda my notes of how the committee had resolved to create the implementation committee. And Yolanda did a great job putting that into a memo, which I believe has been shared with both boards. Is that right, Jasmine?
Yes.
And since Yolanda did the heavy lifting of the draft, I'll turn this over to Yolanda to speak to what was in there. And then I guess we can open up for discussion.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I took most of it right from the implementation section of the plan. So it is, we are recommending a 7 to 9 member committee, 1 select board member, 1 planning board member, and then 5 to 7 public at large, with ideally at least half of them coming from the comprehensive plan committee members. And when we were having this discussion back in October and September, there were a number of members who were very interested in participating and continuing with the implementation plan. Then the idea is that the implementation plan would sort of set their meeting dates, determine if they feel like they need to meet monthly for the first 6 months, and that's what I would recommend. And then the other portion is, once we have our people from the comprehensive plan committee who want to participate, and if we have more than 2 or 3, then we may have to do some kind of interviews or, deciding between either the 2 boards, or if we want to just do it. I think that's part of the discussion, right? How do we determine what the rest of that committee is going to look like? It's been recommended that we have someone from every precinct, since we only have 5 to 7 members. I don't know that we'll have someone from every precinct, but I know we have some comprehensive plan committee members who did represent precincts, so we can look at that. So I think if we approve the outline of what the implementation committee wants to look like, then it would be, how do we want to decide who is actually on it? And I think the first recommendation would be to reach out to those members who are on the comprehensive plan to say, okay, we're looking for 3 or 4 of you to help with the implementation committee. And then as we're doing that simultaneously, reach out to the public and say, we're looking for 2 to 3 members who want to participate and help with the implementation of this process. I don't recommend, we went through a very lengthy interview process when we did this the first time, which was very good for that process. I don't know that I want to recommend that same lengthy interview process. I think this is something that we want to try to get. I mean, ideally, we have our first meeting in May for this committee to get it up and running and get it started and start looking at the comprehensive plan and start moving things forward.
I'm sorry, I don't
And
have
if
it in front of me. I was just going to ask, was there a term, like a certain number of years you were
I
asking
didn't
for?
put that
or-
on there. I think it's something to think about how we want to do it. I don't know if, because it's not until completion, because I don't think anyone's going to want to be sitting there for 10 years.
Right.
I think we could look at, once we sort of determine who's on it, or maybe as we're moving forward to it, say how many years or how long.
Like a recommendation, but not, you don't want it to be a burden for someone that might
it's one of
be-
those things, like I think about certain towns I know have like building committees. And those building committees are in place until either their projects are completed or someone needs to step off, right? We have our building committee for the Mendez, right? And we had a building committee for the public safety building, and that was until completion unless someone had to step off. I think we could go either way if we want to do terms. The thing is, it's one of those committees that you're gonna get working together with each other, and then it's not like you don't want someone to like fall off the committee and then you have to bring someone else new on.
So we've done
I haven't
this-
given it a lot of thought, but
If I could jump in.
yeah.
We did a lot of these same kinds of discussions when we appointed the comprehensive plan committee.
Yep.
Generally, these are about the same time of how long it takes. So the comprehensive plan took a few years. The implementation committee's work will probably be in a similar range. So we may want to, when we post this for the public, we might want to put in there that just like the comprehensive plan process, this could be a multi-year process. And then it looks like on the bottom of Yolanda's sheet, she had proposed, I think based on the comprehensive plan draft, that there would be a chair, a co-chair and all that. And presumably they'll come up with rules of how to handle empty seats. You would think that because we have jurisdiction, the comprehensive plan jurisdiction is with the planning board and obviously the select board in partnership. I would suggest that we do come up with some basic good practice requests to that leadership where we basically say, you know, if you have open member seat, come back to us and let us know and we can figure out what to do next. But one thought I had for this group is to the extent that we have a request, I think we got a public comment from Kate Jerzik, who was on the comprehensive plan committee and is a former planning board member, to make sure we have representation from different precincts. What I would suggest is there was a clear priority at the comprehensive plan committee to have members from that committee be given an opportunity to be on the implementation committee. So I feel like that should be primary focus. It doesn't matter what precinct they're from. Let's try to get 3 to 4 members from the comprehensive plan committee. And then I would suggest that we look at their addresses and their precinct location. And then we, select board and planning board, when we post for the general public, let's fill it in with as many missing precincts as we can. We may not hit the perfect balance, but that would be my suggestion on that.
Right, as
And then
I stated when I started, Anna, that when we were, you know, I said that Kate had recommended, I didn't say Kate specifically, but that
Okay,
someone had
yes.
recommended that we do precincts. And when we look at the people who were on the comprehensive plan, when we select those, some of them were precinct representatives. So I think
Correct.
we're saying the
Yeah.
same thing, but I had said that when I started, so.
Okay, yeah, I guess I was thinking more, it doesn't really matter what precinct they're in. I would just take them. I don't know how many are going to be interested. That was more of the point I was trying to make. It was such a large commitment for multiple years. I think we're going to be lucky if a few of them are in. And so I would worry not at all about which precinct they're from. Thank you.
So, and I'm sorry, and how, so it's a joint, again, joint appointments by the planning board and select board? Okay.
That's my recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just think that there should be some kind of term in there. Open to what that term is. Obviously, I don't think it should be any longer than 3 years, given, 5 years is too long. But just so.
I do see people, either because of interest or time, rotating off of this committee.
I agree that that
so-
would happen, but in the case that it doesn't, I think the planning board and the select board should have an opportunity to review members that are on there that stay on indefinitely, right? I think there
Sure.
should be some kind of control over, maybe it's not cohesive, right? Maybe more intervention is gonna be needed to be made, right? And as the
I see
two
what you're saying.
boards, as the two boards that form that committee, we want to make sure it's actually functioning in a way that serves the planning board and the select board
And the community.
and the community
Right.
to make the progress we're hoping to make.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If
Yeah.
I could, through you, Madam Chair, if you do, I would just recommend if you do terms to stagger them, obviously, so you don't have a board, everybody's term expiring at the exact same time.
Yeah,
Would be
that makes
just a
Mm-hmm.
sense.
recommendation.
Right, which could be, drawing straws basically for the regular members. I think for the two board members, we would have to kind of determine that too, that, hey, every every year the planning, because, you know, boards change every year.
Yeah.
Maybe every year the planning board will decide if the same person stays in the board or they have to change because that person is now no longer on the board.
Right.
Just, you know, as one of our regular assignments about
Right.
who serves on that board. So,
Then a recommendation I would have is that we either align terms with like the month after an election, or what we've done on the select board is our terms used to end in June, and we would have new people not being able to figure out who's, not our select board terms, but the committees that we appoint. All of our committees now, their appointments end on August 31st. So that gives, if I'm a new select board member and we have committees that we're reappointing, I can get to know people as I'm voting to reappoint people to a board. So I would recommend with the implementation committee that we put a term ending August 31st, and maybe the first one, you know, the first people expire of 2027, then 28, and then 29. Because this is not going to be done in 2 years. It's an implementation. I mean, the lift might get easier as we go along, but it's a 10-year comprehensive plan. Are we going to have an implementation committee for those 10 years? Very possibly. And then also at some point at year 7, they're going to start looking at what are we doing for our next comprehensive plan.
yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. There's too much that gets bottlenecked right at election time. Yeah.
Maybe initially staggering everybody, maybe instead of doing a 1, 2, 3 year term, maybe you do 2, 3, 4, so everybody gets a little bit of time before they're up for, reappointment.
But it sounds like the first one would already be
Would
close
already
to a
be
year
a
and a
year and a
half.
couple of months
Yeah.
if we do the first expiration of 27, right? So 8/37.
Can I just comment that typically these are just a few years in towns. This is not like a thing that goes on forever. They're essentially there to set out, a push towards the key elements of the comprehensive plan, and then obviously town management and the zoning board and the planning board follow through. So there's zoning amendments, et cetera. But it's not like they're going to be doing this for years. I just want to be clear on that. And I think we might be overthinking it.
I'm gonna state that I disagree with that. I think
Okay.
they're, the first 6 to 8 months are probably gonna be the heavier lifts. And, they might not be meeting every month after that, but certainly every quarter, they're gonna wanna be reviewing.
I see what you're saying.
Where things
Yeah.
are at with the comprehensive plan,
Okay.
what strategy are we doing? Have we decided not to do some? And then again,
Yeah.
that committee could then be the first people who start thinking about the next comprehensive plan.
I gotcha. In that case, you may want to think about a couple years of, solid group that you don't want to stagger and change too much, and then staggering after. Just something to think about. So that you have a solid beginning.
Right
rather
now,
than
if we go with
people-
what I was saying, our solid beginning would be about 15 months for the first people.
Yeah, I
And
think that seems reasonable.
that doesn't mean they have to go off after those 15 months. They could then do another 3 years, or we could even do 2-year terms if we felt that was better, right? So if the first people expire on 8/31/27, and then their next term is for 2 years and they expire in 29, something like that. That might make more sense, a 2-year term.
Yeah, I would suggest a 2-year term to make it clear, but either way.
Okay, I can write this stuff up and.
All right. So, is there any other comments about implementation plan committee?
I had asked this question last time. So the charter for this group is what's there that was taken out of the comprehensive
Yes.
plan, kind of the operations, or are we going to do a little more deeper dive into those?
Whoever are the people that are on the committee will take a deeper dive in how often we're gonna meet, what kind of reporting, who's the chair, and reviewing things. And as I said, in that, staff would be a liaison and be helping, and there would be conversation back and forth.
Thank you.
So the only other thing for us to think about is like, what are the next immediate steps? If we're going to vote on this and approve it today with the 2 boards, I would suggest that either Yolanda and I again can draft up a letter that would go to the membership of the Comprehensive Plan Committee with a deadline and ask them for who's interested. And then I would think we, the two boards, would also want to draft up a posting for the public to get it approved. Is that something that Yolanda and I can work on as a committee, kind of subcommittee to make that happen? Or would we want to come back to these two boards to approve and appoint? Like, how do we go about that?
Well, I think the two of you obviously are, doing all the groundwork. I'm perfectly comfortable having you continue with the groundwork, and then as far as like the actual membership on the committee, we'll talk about it. The select board will talk about the select board, the planning board will talk about the planning board, so everyone has an equal opportunity to
Well,
kind of
we've
put their
determined
card
who
in.
our representative is gonna be.
Right,
So.
right. So, but as far as setting up all the groundwork, I'm
Right.
perfectly,
Yeah, I think an email, a very simple email out to the past committee saying, we're now moving forward with implementation. Who's interested, please email back so we can review that. And then, we're looking for 3 to 4 members of the comprehensive plan. And then at the same time, similar thing can go out to the public saying, now we're moving forward with implementation and we're looking for however many people. And it's going to be either, it's going to start out as a 15-month or 2-year, 3-year commitment based on these expiration dates. So
is everyone okay with Yolanda and I kind of drafting what would be posted publicly? Like, we can use this particular draft Yolanda already did and just turn it into an advertisement basically for the public. Do we want to do it that way? Or do we want to wait until we see who from the comprehensive plan committee wants it first? And then come back to you guys to figure out if we want to make it precinct specific? Like, how do we want to go about that?
I thought we already determined that
Yeah, I thought
we,
we'd made that decision.
it didn't need to be,
Let's get it rolling.
yeah. So let's get it, we can do 2 things. We'll get an email out to the committee, find out who, and then an email out, we can post it to say we need people from the public with the potential that we might be looking for specific precincts.
Okay, and do it for like April 1st so that we can hit the May goal of a committee meeting? Like, do we have
So
does any?
I have to let people know that I'll be doing some work, but I will be out of the country from April 9th to April 29th. And as much as I love this volunteer work, I don't expect to be doing a lot of it because I'm hoping to not have much internet access on my boat.
So we should do it prior to that.
Yeah, so if we can get, I think we can get a lot of this done before April 9th, so,
yeah,
yeah.
and just to clarify, I think, and not many people jumped in here, but I think with as far as the precinct, it was like, hey, great if it helps to get some diversity in there, but it's
Right.
not gonna be top priority to make sure, and overshadow other contributions to make
Right.
sure precincts are represented.
Right.
Okay,
Let's make sure that the project gets completed.
Right,
that would be a good one.
Then wouldn't that
yeah,
be a good
that's,
one?
that's
I think
that's the priority.
right?
So I guess my question is, what is the next select board planning board meeting that we're trying to hit to deliver some names, both from the comprehensive plan committee and from the public to vote on together so we don't miss Yolanda's trip, or we don't ruin it, I should say. What's our goal, if you will? Because that way, when Yolanda and I are reaching out to both the public through an ad and the comprehensive plan committee, we can be very precise that we're aiming to get answers.
We said April, you're gonna be gone most of April?
The 9th to the 29th.
Yeah, so that,
The first meeting in April, yeah, we have a meeting on April 1st, the select
right.
board.
all right, so
Okay.
why don't we have
That's our
that,
goal. Okay,
why don't we have that be a joint meeting perhaps?
sure,
And
if you guys can
Great.
come to the first
we'll
part.
come visit you for once.
Okay, that works.
Great, sounds like a plan.
Can I
Okay.
sit at the kid table?
So do you want me to
I'll
make
stay
a
right up
motion,
for you.
Tricia? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You want me to make a motion do we need to vote on this
Don't know that we need to.
process, if you will?
I mean,
I don't think we need to,
I don't
but
think
to make it
you-
official, we can do
If you
it.
want to, you could. Doesn't hurt.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the process outline in that memo to both boards that was created by myself and Yolanda, including the next steps as outlined by Yolanda of the email, the post to the public with the goal of delivering names by the April 1st date.
All right, so,
There a second?
oh, yeah, we need a
second.
Okay, there's a second. Planning board, roll call vote.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Scott Pelletier, aye.
Paul Montesino, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye.
Select board vote?
Greaves, aye.
Bennett, aye.
Keegan, aye.
Kinsman, aye.
Vignani, aye. That's 5-0.
All right,
Okay.
so do we need anything, to do anything else in the joint meeting? That's all that's on our agenda, right?
That's it.
So you guys gonna get out of here and leave us alone?
Yeah, we'll let you get back to your job.
If that's not the bum rush, I don't know what is.
Motion to adjourn the select board meeting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that's 8:22.
Thank you, Select Board.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Thanks, Brandy.
When we go to their meeting, that'll be the best part. They always get to leave our meetings early, and we have to stay, but we can get.
You're more than welcome.
The only email we received was the one that was already mentioned several times about the precincts being represented. I could be wrong about that, but I think I'm not.
That is correct. You did receive one this evening while we were here, so you
Oh.
probably want to discuss that at your next meeting because none of you have had a chance to see that
I
yet.
do not
So
know
you
what that
literally
would be.
got one today.
Next
Wait,
thing,
was that the one about they were asking if our letter was sent?
To Hopkinton?
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
okay, so,
Can we just, was the letter sent?
Yes, the letter was sent.
Okay,
yes.
that's all I was
Okay, I
wondering.
just didn't know, you
I
might
saw
have
the
been the only
email,
one
but I
who have
didn't-
read it, so I didn't know.
I didn't know the answer though, like,
Yes.
so I don't know, like, the letter was sent.
Yes, the letter was sent to
right,
Hopkinton,
so-
but
That was the question,
That was
or
the-
that was the email, somebody
That
asked
is-
if the.
Susan Thornton, right?
Yeah,
Is that-
if they
yeah.
asked if we sent
that
the
is
email.
perfectly appropriate and on target, so thank you for that. Item number 4 is public comment. I will open it up for public comment. I will limit the time limit, though, per speaker to 2 minutes, if there is any public comment. There's one comment, or one hand up, I should say.
Joan, you may speak if you're ready. Oh, sorry, Joan Gonfrady, if you would identify yourself and speak, you may.
Yes, hello, Joan Gonfrati. I'm on the Historical Commission speaking as an independent person. I have a comment, oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. I have a comment about the housing plan. I have a concern that I'd just like to bring up on page 56 and 57, and it's about the water. It says very clearly that we are operating well below our threshold, and I don't believe that to be true. Maybe right now we are. However, if I did a workup of all of the proposed plans in town using the Haley Ward calculations, and it comes down to, there are 2 different types of calculations. One calculation leaves us with 79,000 gallons per day, and the other one leaves us with 10,000 gallons per day. And that's about 1 to 4 gallons per day per person in town. And that to me is very concerning. And so I think that it's a little bit misleading with the verbiage that's in here is misleading. I think it needs to be something more to the point of we're working towards some kind of increased infrastructure to support housing. I'm not sure exactly what that would be, but I think we have the same issue with sewer. And I think we also, given that all of the developments that are being proposed could theoretically increase our population by almost 24%, that we should also be looking at the rest of our infrastructure, schools, police, and fire. But the water is the most concerning to me. I mean, 1 gallon per day extra is not, I don't know about you, but just brushing your teeth probably takes a gallon. So I think that, you know, it's something that the whole town should be concerned about. And I sent it to the select board and I sent it to the town manager. And I will copy you on it just so you have it for reference. But I believe that the calculations are pretty close to accurate based on the Haley and Ward calculations. So, so that is my the other question was actually for Jen Goldson. Maybe you can ask or could have the same concern. And she says that if we have a housing performance plan that's approved, then as long as we're doing some kind of development that we can stay in HSI, and yet we couldn't. And I think that we fell out of HSI. So I guess I'm wondering, is that really true? Can we stay in HSI if we're not at 10%?
Yeah, do you want to answer that one, Jasmine?
Yes, thank you. So you can meet you're not meeting your SHI with the housing production plan. What you're doing is you're showing incremental growth, and it can put you in safe harbor based on meeting certain criteria. So you're not meeting your SHI via that, but you are being granted safe harbor by meeting your incremental growth. So it's a statutory sort of goal that you can meet. So you're still not under safe harbor at all. You're not under your safe harbor goal, not in your subsidized housing inventory goals, but you get safe harbor for 1 to 2 years, depending on the timing of the project.
So could we have, I agree, my wording was wrong. So could we have theoretically been in safe harbor when we received all of the, and one or any of these developments?
No, you lost safe harbor as soon as the Arbella went into litigation.
Yeah, so we were in safe harbor based on the Friendly 40B project that was on Memorial Drive. But when that went into litigation, we fell out of safe harbor because those units weren't going forward. So,
You would have been.
yeah, so.
I mean, I knew we fell out of HSI, but I didn't, but based on what she said, I'm wondering if. we would have still
You don't
been in
fall out
HSI.
of HSI though, or SHI, like we're not at the 10%, so we're not, there's nothing to fall out of. Well, I guess if you were over 10%, you could fall out of it, but we've
Yeah,
never been
that's-
at 10%.
Okay,
So we've only been in an incremental safe harbor because we were adding units. We were given a temporary safe harbor, but you can only have a temporary safe harbor if you have an active housing production plan, and that's what she was talking about.
okay, all right.
Okay, but
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Sure, but we will make note of the water sewer on page 56, 57, and maybe, ask Jen Goldson to confirm their numbers and ask ask a little bit more specifically where those numbers come from.
It says there that they use the Haley and Ward, one of them, it lists them on the page, you'll see that. But I think
Yep.
what's missing is the combined projects that are proposed and what's left after that.
Right, and I
That's-
do believe they have been considering those, but we will, but that'll be part of the question, so
Okay,
we'll look
All right.
at that.
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
You too. And I don't see any more hands up for public comment. There's no one in the room. So we will move on to our public hearings. So as I think the board should all know, Jasmine and Melissa have been sending out the continuances, the last 3 on our agenda. That means everything except Eversource is being continued. We'll get to that when we get to it. But meanwhile, we can talk about Eversource, and I see that there's several people here from Eversource. Who is going to be speaking first?
I will be speaking.
And we also have, is Becca here?
We
as
also
well?
have Becca Solomon, our conservation agent, on as well.
Is she hiding under the, no, I see her, okay.
She is.
I see, okay, she's the bee, got it.
All right, let me just share my screen in a bit.
Oh, sorry, Matthew, let me give you permission. Sorry, give me just a second.
Oh, thank you.
So then we
Hello.
have there are 2 separate items here, right? So one is for maintenance and one is for removal, right?
Correct.
It's okay with me if we talk when appropriate, that you talk about those two together, if it makes sense. I don't think we need to divide it into two discussions, right? So, because obviously related material.
I think that makes sense. I'm planning on talking about the maintenance first, just because
Okay.
I don't think that's going to be very controversial, but they
That-
don't necessarily need to be separated formally.
That's fine, whatever is most efficient for you.
Whenever you're ready to share your screen, Matthew, sorry, you're ready.
No problem.
Thank you
Let's
so
see. There we go. We want to. So I'm on the tail end of my fourth double shift with the storm response in southeastern Mass. I'm a little scatterbrained. You all see the map with the little green marking on it?
Yes.
Excellent. So this year we have 2 circuits up for removal this year. Or not, not up for removal. We have 2 circuits up for maintenance pruning this year. The 455H8 and the 274H2. On both of these circuits are 6 scenic roads. The one that you see highlighted currently is Franklin Road. And then if I head over to, did the map change for you guys?
So just to clarify, the dark line is showing the whole circuit,
Correct.
right, that you're going to be checking, and the highlighted lines are the ones that are on scenic roads, which is what you're here for tonight. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So each circuit gets pruned every 4 to 5 years, trending more towards 5 these days. So the whole circuit's getting pruned. These are just the scenic road aspects or portions of them. On the screen you should see now, it actually does show that it runs along Howe Street. That part of the circuit is not being pruned this year because there are 2 circuits present on that road, and the other circuit was pruned last year. There's no need to prune it again so soon. They haven't even gotten a growing season since the last time they've been pruned. So this one is Franklin Street, and then the other 4 are Myrtle Street, Main Street, Winter Street, High Street, and Concord Street, which are highlighted on this map. And our clearance is 10 feet by 10 feet by 15 feet around the top wires, what we call the primary wires.
I have one question.
Yep, go ahead.
Do you have a map that has the names of the streets or any of the streets on these so I can figure out where they are?
We can get into the tiles, but I did not highlight those. So this one in the if you look at the overview map, the long one in the middle is Myrtle Street. The short one to the right of that line is Concord Street. The top left one is Winter Street, and the bottom left one is High Street. If that makes sense.
Like, I know some of those streets, I don't know where we physically are on the map, but it's all right, I'll figure it out. It would be easier, like any major streets were listed on here?
Yes, it would be. That is a good point. Yeah, if I scroll down here, so it's not highlighted, but the central artery running through the middle of the page is Myrtle Street. To the left, the blue line to the left is Winter Street. We got High Street on the bottom. These are labeled, but the words are kind of small for what you guys are seeing. So we got Winter Street at the top. We got High Street to the bottom left. Keep scrolling down. This orange line coming in from the top middle is Myrtle Street. And then it turns into Main Street past the pond or the water body there as it goes to the bottom right diagonally. And then Concord Street is on the right side, or Concord Street is in the middle of this tile with two blue colored pieces on each end, if that makes sense. So I'm going back to the overview. So our clearance is 10 feet by 10 feet by 15 feet around the wires at the top of the pole, what we call the primary wires. These are our high voltage lines, several thousand volts instead of the 120 that comes out of your outlet. We prune to this clearance because not only do we have to break contact immediately for safety reasons and reliability reasons, we also have to have enough clearance that this circuit can go another 4 to 5 years, since that's going to be the next time that we prune it again.
Yeah, so, and Matthew, just to clarify, so it's 10 feet on the bottom, 10
Yes.
feet to the right and left of the wire, and 15 feet to the top. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. I learned from last time.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes, that's a great segue. The circuits are on a cycle. All of the trees that we're going to be pruning will have been pruned the same way before multiple times. It's nothing that the trees aren't used to at this point. While that can't be a large clearance in and of itself, we do prune to what are known as ANSI standards, and those are arboricultural standards for healthy tree pruning that are industry-wide. They're not utility specific, but we do use them. And when we prune to these standards, it is not harmful to the trees. It is incorporating their natural healing processes to heal over the pruning cuts. And part of the ANSI standards is, well, we do have that 15 feet above the top wires, which cuts into the canopy of a lot of these trees. We don't usually tend to take significant leaders because of these ANSI standards. While we do want to try to, while they're young, prune trees around their wires in a way that makes a nice U shape, we tend to not be taking out established canopy with these projects. If there's a very large limb that I do want to take, it would be something that I would be asking Becca about specifically. And in those cases, it would be something like it's touching the electrical wires, or there's a crack in it or something that makes me think it's going to fail. The timing for this is flexible, and right now I'm planning on the fall, but it's a lot of moving parts depending on what the contractor's timeline is. If I do change that timeline and want to do it earlier, it's something I would communicate with Becca. As well as we would give residents and abutters electronic notification that we will be in town doing this work. Anyone who has a customer account that is tied in with these circuits gets an email. If they don't have an email, they get a physical letter with that, and where this process is explained to them. If they have concerns about what we may be doing to their trees, the customer service number is included on those documents. If their concerns cannot be addressed by our standard customer service reps, they forward it to me, and I schedule a time to either call them or physically meet with them to take a look at the work together and address any questions that they have.
Is there anything else?
I don't think so. That's about it for the pruning. Like I said, it's work that we've done before.
Yeah. Yeah. Becca, did you have anything to weigh in at this point?
I would just add in clarification, because I'm sure a lot of people don't know what the ANSI standards are. Those are national standards that, as Matthew mentioned, are used in the industry, not just utilities, but forestry as well. It's actually the standards that we use in town when we're hiring contractors for pruning, planting, anything. So just clarifying what that is, that those are the standards we use, and clearly Eversource uses the same.
Thank you. Thanks, Becca.
Tricia, I just had a quick question. I remember the last meeting that we had, and maybe I just am confused. I thought there was going to be removal and lots of trees. It sounds like we're just pruning, which is quite different.
That's actually part two of
Okay, got it.
There's two items, and I said that we can talk about it all at one time, but this obviously is kind of a nice little package, so
got
we'll
it.
do
Okay,
this
thank
and
you for clarifying.
Yep.
Yes.
So did anyone have any other questions about this kind of pruning part of it? Okay. In that case, we do need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the Eversource Scenic Roads annual tree maintenance.
And a second.
Second that.
Roll call vote.
Deepa Venkata.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Scott Pelletier, aye.
Paul Montesino, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So that has been approved. Okay, so now we can move on to the second part, which was Anna's question, which is about the removals, which is more unusual. And Matt, I'll let you take it from there.
So no need to introduce myself twice, but I am a certified arborist. I've been for many years. I've been working I've been working for utility for about 8 years at this point, either as a contractor or directly. On the right is a nice little intro image, and this is not an image that I had in my back pocket. This is one that was sent to me by a tree crew yesterday from our storm response in southeastern Massachusetts. You can see that a large tree has fallen onto our high voltage primary lines. And I think this is a really good illustration of what we're trying to prevent for a few different reasons. One, obviously the power is out, which nobody wants to have happen. But what is interesting about this image is the wires are contacting the tree. The tree is contacting this metal chain link fence. If these wires are active, then this fence is electrified. Not a good situation. So our goal with these removal projects is to prevent these situations from happening. I promise I love trees. That's why I became an arborist. So this is the circuit that I want to talk about for the removal project. The streets are highlighted in lime. The longer one is Howe Street, and the shorter one coming off of it is Cross Street. This circuit, the 455H3, is what we call a penalty circuit. It's reaching a threshold set by the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities of approaching a threshold that the DPU considers not acceptable for Massachusetts citizens to have to deal with in terms of power outages and power reliability. There's been too many outages on this circuit.
What does that mean, like approaching a threshold? Is that related to trees or is that something different?
So any outage caused by anything counts. Funnily enough, it includes cars driving into poles and knocking out the power. We can get penalized for that, even though it's not something we have any control over. Most of the outages are tree caused, just generally speaking, for utilities. What I mean by a threshold is the duration of outages, the amount of time that the average person fed by the circuit, the amount of time that they've experienced without power is accumulated enough that it's reaching that threshold.
Okay, so power being out for any reason along there adds on to this, the number reached that's going toward this threshold.
Correct.
Can I get it, just to clarify, this is a threshold that Eversource must meet for the state of how quickly you respond to when power is out, and you have to pay a penalty, right? But this has nothing to do with the town of Ashland being required in any way to address any kind of threshold.
Correct. It's Eversource's responsibility to immediately
I just want
reduce
to
the
be
outages.
clear that
Yes.
that threshold has zero obligation to the town of Ashland. It's not like we, the town of Ashland, gets penalized. Eversource has to respond within a certain amount of time to outages. So I just didn't want the board to be confused. Thank you.
Yes, I'm the one under fire. Don't worry.
And I just want another one for clarification. It is approaching that limit because in the past, how many years it is reached?
So it's
that
so the list of circuits that are in danger of hitting this threshold or calculated by it is in the bottom 5% of circuit reliability for 3 years in a row. So this isn't a result of a storm that happened last year. This isn't a recent spike in outages. It's a consistent pattern of poor reliability.
In what other method?
Again, that could be about cars running into things. It could be about wind tunnels. It could be about, frankly, an infrastructure reliability with Eversource that has zero to do with a nice tree in Ashland.
Yes, although, like I said, the majority of outages are caused by trees. The tree.
Do you have data that that's our problem? Like, meaning, is it these particular trees?
I don't have specific data about that, but that's definitely something that I could find and send to the board.
And I just had some more questions. What other, as we get into this and you go through the trees that you're thinking about, what other methodologies have you done to try to improve that area since, it's been going on for 3 years now? Have you added more poles? Have you put in more lines? Like what else, what other things have you done before coming to us to talk about the trees?
In terms of putting in new poles and new lines, I don't think that there have been any infrastructure upgrades for this circuit. But generally, when we are doing those kinds of projects where we are raising the poles, when you put the poles higher, you put the wires higher, it's less of a chance for a tree to fall onto it. What you're doing when you do that is you're raising the wires into canopy of established trees, and now we have a bigger problem, which is high voltage lines are touching major significant parts of trees, large parts of trees that they were not before, and now I'm coming to you with a whole line of trees that I need to get removed because they're going to catch on fire because these poles have been raised. So that's not necessarily the solution that results in fewer trees and me asking for fewer trees.
Sorry, just to go back to the specific question, you haven't done anything besides come to us and ask about you're about to ask about the trees, but nothing else has happened infrastructure-wise on those 2 streets for the last 3 years?
Not that I'm aware of, but like I said, the majority of.
Yep. I just want to understand if there was like you tried other things and then you're coming to this, or like this is just coming to us now. So I just want to understand so I can help with that decision going forward. Thank you.
Yes. Like I said, the majority of like not specific to Eversource, not specific to the circuit, the majority of outages across all electric utilities are tree caused.
Did you on the previous section mention that House Street you did pruning last year and did not need one this year?
Correct. Yes.
And in spite of that, you think these trees have to come down?
Yes, for reasons that I will get to further down in this PowerPoint.
To the board, just to help clarify this, and Matthew will go over this in a minute. So when they are doing pruning, they're looking at taking unhealthy limbs off of otherwise healthy trees to make sure that those healthy trees continue to be healthy, so that they aren't having to be removed later. What pruning can't do is prevent an unhealthy tree from becoming a bigger hazard. And so separately, you have to do removal at some point. Unfortunately, all trees eventually do reach the end of their lifespan. And especially with more extreme weather events, droughts followed by freezes, followed by floods, that stresses the trees. And we do get some that unfortunately fall ill, and there is just nothing you can do to keep that tree alive. And so as Matthew will go through the pictures, you'll see some of these trees, and it's very obvious in some of the photos just how bad they are. There are some where it's less obvious from a photo, and Matthew or I will probably have to explain a little bit more of what we're seeing or sometimes hearing from within the tree that makes it more of a hazard that you can't just see with the naked eye.
Thank you.
And I'm so sorry, through you, Madam Chair. Becca Solomon is also our tree warden. I just, in case somebody newer on the board wasn't aware.
Yes, that's actually worth mentioning. Becca and I did a site walk back in February where we looked at each one of these trees, and my reasoning for having these be on the list are all things that Becca agreed with in the field. So I think it's important to define a hazard tree. What is a hazard tree? First up on the top right, we have this fun little matrix table. Now this is taken directly from the International Society of Arboriculture's tree risk assessment form. It's nothing specific to utilities. And this matrix table is sort of laying out how you analyze how hazardous a tree is. So on the leftmost column, you have how likely is this tree to fail? And if it were to fail, how likely is it going to hit something we care about? If you have a tree with a hole in it that's leaning over your fence, that's kind of not a big deal. if you have a tree with a hole in it that's leaning over your house, your threshold for what is or isn't a hazard tree is much lower. Now, I would argue that anything involving high voltage lines with thousands of volts running through them qualifies as the consequence of failure qualifies as significant. And that's what the rest of this matrix table is showing is if a tree fails and it hits something we care about, what are the consequences of it hitting that thing? When these trees fail, high voltage lines go down to the roads. When there's a state park next to Howe Street, when I've been putting this project together, people are walking there quite often. Cars are driving through here, and as well, when these trees go down to the road, when they bring power lines down into the road, they're blocking emergency services. I would argue that any time that utility power lines are involved, the consequences of failure are automatically significant in the significant column of this table. If a tree fails and if it hits the power lines, no matter what, the consequences are significant. And with that logic following this table, all you need is for a tree to be somewhat likely to fail, somewhat likely to impact the lines, and you're already at moderate risk. And it just goes higher from there. And then below on these two lists, I put two columns of things that arborists look for when we assess whether or not a tree is likely to fail. On the left, I have some biological defects. This is stuff like rot, fungus, if there's tree pests that are stressing the tree out, is there deadwood in the canopy, if there are mushrooms are the kiss of death. 9 times out of 10, if there are mushrooms growing out of a tree, the tree is functionally dead. I mean, it's going to put out leaves for a few years, but if the mushroom is putting the part of the mushroom that you see is the reproductive parts. The majority of the organism exists in small fibers that are getting into the tree. So if it's already thinking about reproducing, it's pretty confident that it has its food source set up. And on the right, you have structural and mechanical defects, excessive lean, weak unions, if they're touching or extremely close to touching the power lines, or they're growing up between the power lines. Is there previous storm damage? If a tree has dropped a limb in a storm, that's a sign that it's been stressed already, because it already dropped a limb that it should not have. And then 2, on top of that, it just lost a large amount of its ability to feed itself with the loss of the leaf production. So and all taken together, these are the things that we look at. And if we go on a site walk, which I believe is the plan, these are all things that I will be very happy to point out. So I got 2 photos. Here is 2 ash and a pine. The pine is all the way on the right. It's stone cold dead. I think that one is a pretty easy one. The 2 ash in the middle, there is an invasive pest going around. It is endemic to eastern Massachusetts. It's in basically every ash. If it's not in the ash already, if you're not treating the ash today, it's going to get emerald ash borer. And this is a bug that has a 99.9% fatality rate. These are, even if they put out leaves next year, these are dead trees standing. This is a photo of what I imagine will be one of the more controversial parts of this project. And so I wanted to talk about it here. What we have is this line of small stemmed oaks that are leaning in from across the road. Now they're leaning in from across the road because that's where the light's coming from. But if you look to the right, the forest is there. They're going to go towards the light. So the only way for these trees to grow is going to be up and over our power lines in a way that pruning is not really sufficient to control. These trees are only ever going to be an issue. A lot of them have small canopies, which make them more prone to wind throw, or of being knocked over by the wind. And several of them have other defects, such as rot in the base or cracks that just sort of compound the risk factor. So here's my little summary page, and I brought up the matrix table again just because it's a nice little thing to have. On my list are 46 trees varying in size class. A majority of them are 18 inches or smaller. That would qualify them as young trees. These are not mature trees. The majority of these are not mature trees. 8 of these are ash that are infected with emerald ash borer, which is again a 99.9% fatality rate. And 5 of them, not counting the ash, are dead. So that's 13 trees that are either dead or functionally dead. And below that, I put together my hazard ratings for these trees. If you look at the matrix table, you see at the extreme end, there's 4 different hazard ratings. You probably have noticed that I only have 3 hazard ratings. That's because if you hit extreme, when you're looking at this table, that means you need to run away from the tree because it's coming down like today. So if anything rates as a 4, that is an emergency situation, not just this tree is likely to fail at some point. So 3 is the highest hazard rating, the highest potential risk. 1 is the lowest. I have 21 trees at a 3, 21 trees at a 2, and then 4 at a 1. Now, of the 8 ash and the 5 standing dead trees, half of the hazard rating 3 trees are dead. That's 13 out of 21 are dead trees. And the other trees that I put in that category are there because there's significant rot in the there's significant rot. There are mushrooms growing out of them. There's very long, significant cracks in the stem to earn that 3rd hazard rating. The 2s are sort of in the middle. They are trees that I want out, but not they're just not quite bad enough to get the 3. And then the 1s are trees where a lot of the 1s are they're just kind of leaning, and they're a little bit too close, but they don't really have any other defects. Or I think I have 2 undergrowth trees on here that are not wire compatible. That is, they grow so quickly and they sprout so aggressively when they are pruned that they are not able to be controlled by pruning. And I think something that's really important.
Can I ask a question just about that last slide? Didn't you say for the 3 category that half of that 21 are dead?
Yes.
But in the chart right above it, 5 are dead? Like, I'm
counting
how the 2 charts relate.
I'm counting the 8 as part of that 13. So these are the ash are aggressively infected with a pest that kills them very quickly.
So those 13, that 8 plus 5 is all kind of, or almost all of them are in that 3 category, or maybe they all are.
Yes, they all are.
Okay, thank you.
To the board, sorry for butting in. I just want to also add that of the 4 low risk trees that Matthew mentioned, some of those are undergrowth trees. What those mean is those are trees that their trunks are so small you could probably wrap a single hand around them and close your fingers together. At most, maybe your 2 hands. So they're very, very quite small, and they're just starting to grow into the power lines. Usually those are very fast growing trees that within 1 or 2 years will be tangled up in power lines and causing fires. And so those are why those are being targeted while they're still small and don't have a lot of wildlife value or habitat value. And that also it releases trees that are a little bit further back by allowing more sunlight to get to those trees as well, so that they grow. The trees that are in a better location are going to grow rather than the trees that are going to cause fires.
Yes, and Mass General Law defines a tree in the right of way as 1.5 inches in diameter. These laws were written a long time ago. That is not an industry standard for what we understand as a tree. The Forest Service, I think, uses 5 or 6 inches in diameter to define a tree. So in that way, these laws are a little outdated, but they're what we have to work with.
Okay, thank you.
So I think something that's really important to contextualize this proposal is 46 trees is a lot of trees. I think it's the most that I've come to the Ashland Planning Board, or my predecessor came to the Ashland Planning Board. at any one time. It's almost 50, you know, when you look at them on a spreadsheet, it's a lot. But I do want to stress that these trees, the majority of them, basically any of them that aren't on Cross Street, are bordering a state park. I would consider these not street trees per se, they're forest trees that we built a road through. These aren't big stately oaks that, you know, they only went around for a block or two. They are in the middle of the woods. The DCR figure for the acreage of the state park total is 1,500 acres. A quarter of that about is in Ashland. I think it's a third, especially when you take into account the water. But I'm going with a quarter because I want to lowball these numbers. And you'll see why in a second. A 2019 to 2020 study I found published by the Forest Ecosystem Monitoring Cooperative at actually my own alma mater, the University of Vermont. It's actually authored by a former professor of mine, which is a fun little discovery I made today. Gave a status report, a lengthy one, on Massachusetts forests. And it found that in areas that are considered forested, they're counting on average 190 trees per acre. So going back to previous slide, 1,500 acres for the state park given from the DCR, a quarter of that would make it 375 acres. 190 trees per acre times 375 acres mean that in the Ashland portion of this park, there are 71,250 trees. The United States Forest Service figure for the annual natural mortality rate in New England forests, and this is just from forests doing what forests do. The trees are competing with each other for resources, getting attacked by native pests that are part of the local ecosystem, droughts, what have you. 1% of trees die every year. This would mean that the expected natural mortality rate every year for the Hopkinton State Park portion in Ashland is 713 trees every single year. And I'm asking for 46 trees. A portion of those, 13 of those, have already died. So they technically wouldn't even count for this math. In one project, I am asking for the amount of trees that die each year in this state park or in Ashland is 15 times the number of trees that are on this tree list. And going back a few slides, this is a tiny, tiny little corner of Ashland. This is not a large area relative to the rest of the town. There's a lot of trees that are dying each year. This is not a number of trees that the forest is going to notice. It's less than what it's already dealing with. And that is the end of my section.
To the board, I'm just going to add in also to Matthew's point on that regarding how many trees are falling there. For anyone who's driven down Cross Street or Howe Street during a storm or right after a storm, you're familiar with how many limbs and branches fall on the road, and it's kind of hazardous to drive down. I myself have gone down there during some of the stormwater inspections under the conservation hat and had to get out of the vehicle and move trees off the road because it was impassable. And this happens almost every storm we get. So, you know, there are trees coming down, there are branches coming down, and most likely the trees that are listed here, if they're not taken down by Eversource as part of this job, is going to come down on their own before their next cycle in 5 years. And when they do come down, there's a higher chance that they're going to take the wires with them as opposed to being assisted down now in a safe manner. So that's part of the reasoning why they're doing it this way as opposed to just letting it happen naturally. Obviously, with the conservation hat on, we'd love to leave even dead trees standing. There's wildlife value there. But we also have to think about, you know, we don't want our residents in Ashland going without power during a storm because a tree fell down and we have to clear the tree to even get to the wires, and it can take hours, sometimes a day or two. As well as we don't want to have fires in the middle of a wooded area along the state park and with our water treatment plant down there as well. This is kind of a priority area for Ashland to make sure that we keep our power and we're not catching on fire.
Yes, thank you, Becca. And in fact, when we were doing our site walk, Becca and I, back in February, we added a few of these trees. Actually were added at Becca's request for that reason. They're not threatening the wires that much, but if Eversource is gonna be in town doing tree removals, we may as well get these trees as well. If they're not necessarily threatening the wires, they are threatening the road and the right of way. My coworker is also on the call. Just let me know that he did some digging in the actual data, and since May of 2024, 81% of outages on the circuit are tree related.
Thank you.
So this is a pressing factor for the reliability of this circuit.
So when you say this circuit, you're talking about a regional circuit. You're not talking about these two streets, right?
Yes, the circuit as a whole.
Yeah, let's not get confused. Tricia, I have a lot of comments, but I'm remote, so you tell me when you want me to jump in or how you want to do this.
I think we're ready for questions from the board.
Questions or comments?
Either one. Yep.
Does anybody want to jump in who's in there, or I can
do
start
have a
with
question.
mine?
How many outages are we talking about on these roads? We talk about 81%, but is that 1 to 2? I mean, how
We're
many are we
saying these
talking?
two streets are not in that data at all.
I mean, they are a part of that data.
If you give me a minute. I
You're
can
saying
pull-
those two streets had outages specifically in that data set?
Yeah, if you give me a minute, I can pull specifically House Street for how many of those, but we're looking at 68 outages since May of 2024.
58 outages?
Wow, 58,
That's a-
58,
That's a lot.
68.
68.
68 between those two streets?
Okay.
68 on the 455 H3. But it's more.
What is it?
Yeah, I'll pull, give me a minute and I'll pull House Street.
Yeah, so you're pulling them from the entire region. You're not pulling them on those two streets.
And as well, it's a lot of outages, but the circuit is hitting the threshold for how long these outages are. So not only is it a lot of outages, they're lasting quite a while.
Yes, so I guess I'll just jump to my point, which is this is not just a street. This is a regulatory protected, statutorily protected scenic routes. So the conceptual idea that this is like any other street in Ashland, we've got a lot of nice trees, or that this is just like a state park, I find to be not accurate. There's sort of that joke, if a tree falls, if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one to see it, has it really fallen? These trees, when they come down, will be visible to the public. These are scenic routes that are important, protected, and I would say some of the favored streets of people in Ashland. Yes, it sucks to lose power, and it also sucks to have road inconvenience, but I can tell you, as somebody who's lived in Ashland for a long, long time, it's known to avoid certain streets during storms. That's sort of common sense and logical. And so road inconvenience truly is about cost, both to Eversource and the town of Ashland. Now, I'm not seeing a report here from the select board that our town resources are so overwhelmed that we need to do this. What I'm hearing is Eversource is here to say they have their own regulatory scheme where they must deliver to the state quick response. What does that mean? That means that you got to put people on these roads quickly. They've got to be responsive, and if they're not responsive, then the state penalizes them. That has nothing to do with the scenic route. We have zero obligation, no offense to Eversource, zero obligation to assure that their penalties are low. In fact, that's their responsibility. They charge the residents of Ashland a cost to deliver power, and should take responsibility to pay attention to those scenic routes to assure quick response. So with all due respect, I'm not seeing how this allows us, the planning board, to somehow loosen the protections for a scenic route. All that being said, the statute itself has language that allows our town warden, together with the town of Ashland, if there's an emergency to remove a tree. I'm not hearing anything like that. I'm not hearing that, there's an emergency right now, the tree's there, we got to remove it. And that, by the way, you don't even need the planning board to do. And so to Becca's point that anything horrible can happen on that street, Absolutely, that's going to happen, and the town of Ashland will remove those trees when it happens. So there is already a solution in place in the statute itself for emergency response. We don't need to be talking about that as a threat because the statute already takes care of it. So the only thing we're discussing is a increased responsibility and cost to Eversource, which to me, no offense, is not sufficient to remove the protection for that street. What I'm hearing is out of those 21 in level 3, you've got half that are dead. That's a no-brainer to me. A dead tree should go. The rest in level 3, I would have to receive the data that those are the trees that are potentially responsible for what's being presented as, fire or high-level incidents in this region. So I'd like to know which streets, which trees, what we're actually talking about before I would be comfortable approving all of these being removed. But I have zero problem removing the dead trees, and that's my position on this.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions from the board or comments?
I have some questions, but are they going to respond?
Yes. So we do have a regulatory requirement to the state, which the responsibility of which, of course, does not fall onto the town of Ashland. But the crux of that that regulatory requirement is that, according to the state of Massachusetts, it has defined a threshold of outages which is not acceptable for Massachusetts citizens to experience. So it is directly related to the residents of Ashland and the outages that they are experiencing. We do something to address these trees. Now, I didn't get too deep into the details of specific trees because I know that we've been trying to plan a site walk to go out and look at these trees in person, which is something that I would be very supportive of. I'm very happy to even do it on a weekend because when you put these trees on a list and it just becomes a list of trees with some comments of various things that I saw. But I think being able to go out and physically look at these trees, have an actual give and take about specific ones based on what everyone is visually seeing at the same time, I think is a more productive conversation.
The board.
Wait, I'd like to open it up to other. Oh, sorry, was that you, Becca?
Yes, I was just through the chair. I was just also going to add to Anna's point about emergency trees and everything. With my tree warden hat on, we do everything in our power to avoid being in an emergency situation. To clarify what an emergency tree is, it means that that tree is actively falling. The classic emergency situation, and I've dealt with this in another community, is a tree has dropped a branch, it's hanging in the wires, it is actively on fire. The fire department can't even put the fire out yet because they have to wait for the utility company to come turn off the wires. And meanwhile, things are burning and people are having to evacuate from their house. We don't want to be in that situation because it's not just a cost concern or a time concern. People's lives are at risk at that point. And we want to prevent that from happening. So what we normally do and what I do, I use the same matrix, and Matthew's only showing the second part of the matrix. The first part of the matrix looks at how likely is a tree to actually fail, to have a branch break, to fall down, to have some kind of issue, compared to how likely is it to actually hit something if that failure occurs. So I can look at a dead tree and say it's nowhere near a house or a power line or a sidewalk or a bench that people are going to be sitting on, and it might be imminent failure, but it's negligible likelihood of hitting anything. And so it's going to be in the unlikely category on that left side of that matrix chart. But if it's in those categories and then the consequences of it hitting something, maybe it is near power lines, but it's leaning the opposite direction. So it's not likely to hit the power lines. But if it were to hit the power lines, is that going to be significant or severe? That's where this second part of the matrix comes in and determines how that risk rating is. In my position as tree warden, any tree that has reached a high risk level in the second matrix is one that is priority for us to take down. If I were to look at the current list of trees we have in all of Ashland, I have maybe in the time since I have become tree warden here, had one extreme tree. The rest have been, maybe 10% of them have been high risk trees, and most have been moderate or low. I try to get rid of every single high tree that comes to us every year. And most of, as Matthew has pointed to, 21 of the trees on the circuit are that high risk tree. And if he were not taking them down for Eversource, they would be on our priority list for us here in Ashland to take down as it is. And if
You're
I were
talking
to
about
also,
you're talking about those 21 that are level 3.
yes.
Yep.
If I were to be 100% frank with the board, we don't have the budget available to take down all of those trees. And so we rely a bit on Eversource to assist with that, so which is why Matthew mentioned, there were a couple trees I said, hey, while you're here, can you take these down too? Because those are those high risk trees, even though they're not priority trees for Eversource, they're priority trees for us. Those moderate trees.
And are they priority? Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to make sure the rest of the board can jump in here as well. So
I'm almost done, I'm sorry. This moderate tree can also, we say moderate, it seems like that's a fine tree. But if you look at that matrix chart, you could have a very likely tree that's very likely to fall and to hit something, but minor consequences. And it can be a moderate tree. But if it were just a likely tree, but significant consequences, then it's immediately a high risk tree, right? And so if you have a tree that maybe it's minor because it's just barely going to brush the power lines if it falls, presuming it falls in just the right way and it doesn't get picked up and dragged 5 feet by a strong windstorm, that can still be a moderate tree, even if it's an imminent failure. And so that's things that we're looking at with all of these trees. I think, the planning board, from what I understand from Jasmine, you all were looking to do a site walk, and I think that will illustrate things a lot better. Obviously, Matthew's not wasting everyone's time for 2 hours going over every single tree. We did that site walk, and it took us, I think, 3 hours to walk and look at every single tree. And all of those trees did have some major issues. In fact, I found some issues Matthew had not caught on a couple trees that were deeply concerning. That was just what I had to add.
Okay, thanks. Let me pause things there. Scott?
Yeah, so let's say we do approve this, and you took down the 46 trees, and next year, those 2 streets are still on the list. Are you coming back to us and asking us to take down more trees, or are you guys gonna do something different in that area, like infrastructure-wise for Eversource? And I have another question after this. So what's next if it doesn't work?
Well, the infrastructure options that we have, like I was alluding to, are not necessarily more tree friendly. If we raise the poles, we're going into canopy.
You can bury the lines. I mean, there's lots of other things.
Yeah, if we, and
what's the next step? Are you going to come back
we,
and ask for more trees? That's what I'm kind of trying to figure out.
If we bury the lines, we are completely eradicating the root systems of every single tree adjacent to the roads. If this were a line burial project, I would have a list of hundreds of trees, because every single tree next to the road would be getting their roots eradicated and would be dying over the short term. So these infrastructure upgrades are not necessarily...
Wait, I want one person to talk at a time.
What is the next step? If this doesn't work, are you going to come back and ask for more trees?
I mean, if outages continue to not improve and they're being tree caused, then yes, it would be something that we would reassess. Now I did, Russell, to get back to me, of the 52 outages, on the circuit, 52 of those there have been 52 outages over a time frame. 42 of those are tree related, and 22 of those, over half in Ashland, did occur on House Street. It's the most heavily treed part of the circuit, so it is where the majority of the tree outages are happening.
All right, so are there any other questions from any other member of the board? And I also want to say if there's any other, if there's any comments from the public, now is the, I don't know if we have anyone online, but it's an opportunity to raise your hand. Scott, do you have another question?
Yes.
Okay.
Would Eversource be willing to plant 46 trees in another area of the town?
Absolutely.
All right, so I think there's a bit of bringing something to the town that we could help offset some of this. I understand this is a scenic road and you probably don't want to plant them on that physical road because you might just be creating it again, but is there a place in town that we can say, hey, maybe there's an arboretum, right, in town, like maybe Eversource can donate 50 trees to kind of help offset this and make something nicer in the town? That's a possibility?
It's definitely a possibility. I don't want to replant on Howe because it's in the middle of the woods. Even trees that in nature have evolved to be very tolerant of shade and thrive in shade. The going through the nursery is a frankly traumatic process for trees. Their root systems get eradicated. If you don't water them regularly, if they're not getting enough light, they'll die. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if there's a strong canopy over the road layout, like on House Street, that's not a place that I would like to be planting trees. If I am going to put trees in the ground, I want them to be there 100 years later.
Becca, hold on.
Replant. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Becca, in your knowledge of the trees in Ashland, are there places that in your experience that you would say, public spaces, we'll leave private out of it for now, public spaces where you would say, gosh, we could use some trees in this area?
Yes, that is something that I have been working to evaluate, and we are working on getting an urban forestry management plan for the town, which should be going out to bid soon, hopefully. And that would also identify further planting locations for new trees. If I'm looking at just in right-of-ways, I have not looked at every single street yet. I've started with downtown and worked my way out. But if you look at the area near Pine Hill Road a little bit further up as you're going towards the town forest, some of those older developments, their trees have died over time. There's not a lot of trees in the right-of-way there. They're in the Heat Island areas. We could focus on that. And then I think it was Scott who pointed out there is the Arboretum. There is still additional planting projects planned there in other town properties, I'm sure. I know the town forest is doing understory growth as well with deer exclosures to try and reforest there too. So there's plenty of opportunity that we can find.
Okay, great, thank you. Anna?
Thank you. I keep coming back to the statute. This is not just a road in Ashland. This is a scenic route that has statutory protection. And the term that's used there for emergency removal is in danger. Does this tree currently, it doesn't say currently, but the way it reads is there has to be in danger, it endangers with an S. It's an active term. Does it endanger right now is how I'm interpreting it. So to me, those 21 of level 3 trees are a no-brainer, assuming we do, half of them are dead already. Assuming we do a site walk and the rest of the 21, there's reasonable explanation that they are currently endangering essentially public safety. I see no problem with removing those 21. The rest of these, this is not just a road. This is a scenic route that requires some protection. I don't think this is okay to do just because it's next to a forest. That's exactly why it's there. We happen to have a scenic route because it's next to a forest. It happens to have more issues because it is a scenic route. That's the nature of the beast. If you don't want any type of risk, then you're not going to have scenic routes because you're going to want to remove the trees. So to me, there has to be some conversation about what level of comfort do we have with, as long as it's not endangering, what level of comfort do we have with some expense by Eversource and by the town of Ashland to protect a statutorily protected scenic route?
All right,
Is it
so
more expensive? Yes. So to me,
I
I
just want
personally
to
would
make sure
not
you're
be
only making
okay.
your arguments once, okay? So, and it sounds
That's
like
fine.
you've,
I'm just making it clear that I, for one, would not remove all 40 plus. I don't think the statute allows it.
all right, thank you. Anyone else have comments on this? So I think,
I just think we need to find solution. I think we have experts who've really gone through that, and after hearing Becca's kind of her side of explanation of these 46, and if Eversource is willing to find a location for us to plant those, I think that's a good balance. And I think that's a condition that I would love to see if we can follow up and get that in action and solve this versus trying to debate whether those 21 trees are dead, not dead. I'm not sure if I personally don't think I have the expertise, even if I walk through and learn to identify. I don't know if I would do that, but that's me.
okay. Yeah, so I think the site walk that was the intention was certainly not, at least I will not be participating in a 3-hour site walk. But the site walk, in my view, was intended as an educational opportunity for the board to try to understand some of the knowledge that Matthew and Becca I've worked with before at the Arboretum and on different other things related to conservation with her. I absolutely trust anything she says about trees. And, but so would be a great opportunity to educate the board to learn a little piece of her expertise if we have that opportunity with the snow, with the roads the way they are, and that we all won't get hit by a truck while we're looking at trees. So that's an opportunity for that. I think in my opinion, as far as the scenic roads, I think it's a bigger question than small words in the bylaws about emergency or whatever. I think we're looking out for the long-term health of our community in general, which includes trees, which includes people, and about how we maintain our environment. And in my mind, this has come up before, where every little tree causes another tree not to grow to its fullest potential. I think this is easy to see when you visit a park like Cushing. When you see a tree that's not surrounded by trees, you have these beautiful specimen trees. And when you go out to a normal woods where the trees are all packed in, none of them are great. They tend to be, right? So that's my take. I don't have any problem with these 46 trees, especially if Becca has okayed it, I would okay it. So, but it sounds like, it sounds like maybe people are interested in the site visit, would have to see that, yes, how many people on the board are willing to come to this site visit, or, but except I don't have time, for that. So either we're willing to do it or we're not.
So I think we exchanged our availability at the last meeting. I thought Jasmine was
I think we were
working to
looking at
arrange that.
Wednesday of next week.
Was that sent around?
I
Because
think
I don't
it was-
recall
I
seeing
think
that.
I think it was,
I didn't send anything after.
yeah, I
that
think it's
meeting,
just
no.
something we talked about is Wednesday of next week at 4 to 5. I put it in my calendar right away. 4 to 5 or 5 to 6,
I thought
something
you
like
said
that.
5 to 6.
Might have been 5 to 6. So, and to look at some samples of trees, maybe picking an area so that really more for our education than anything, and then we can go, go from there. We'll hit
I mean,
daylight
I will
savings
say
times by then, so we'll have a little daylight savings time. I think it's coming up this,
Oh my
or is it right after that? It might be right after that, sorry. Maybe it's March 5th. It might be right after. So.
I do want to clarify, this is not a bylaw. I'm talking about a state law. So this is not like a little town bylaw that requires interpretation. This is actually state law regulated. And then the other thing I wanted to say is I, for one, again, I'm going to reiterate, those first 21 trees I have no problem with, and I don't need to look at them. The ones that are in category 2 and 1, again, I'm going to stand by my position that I don't see how the state law allows it. I'm not sure there's any benefit to look at them. For me, I would vote against that.
Okay, that's fine. I want to make sure we're not
but
repeating
if-
I want to make sure we're not repeating our arguments, which keeps us here late.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
so
what
we've
I
heard
was
that
gonna
once, make sure
ask
it's new.
is, what trees are we actually looking at on Wednesday?
I think we would be looking at samples. To me, I would say I'd be looking at samples in the 3 category, samples in the 2 category, and a sample in the 1 category. What do these look like to us? That's what I'm interested in education and not going tree to tree to tree and voting on each one, which I don't think anyone has an interest to do. So is there any input on that interpretation of our site visit? And how many people are able to be there at 5 o'clock at whatever site's determined on Wednesday? Wednesday at 5 o'clock.
Did you want to meet here?
I think we should probably meet wherever it is.
Yeah, we should meet there.
That's
It's gonna
fine.
be dusk not too long after that.
Okay, so we could try to wind it back to 4:30 and I would say to choose, obviously, a site that would utilize our time best. We might be able to stand in one spot and see 3 different types of trees.
I definitely can't do 4:30, 5:15 is the earliest that I can do. I have a meeting till 5, so.
Through the chair, I apologize to interrupt again. I do have a Conservation Commission meeting next Wednesday at 6 p.m. And so if you're looking much later than 5 p.m. on that Wednesday, I will have to leave the site visit early so that I can be in attendance for that Conservation Commission meeting.
So that is the time we had agreed on. Next time, is a weekend better? Are people around this weekend?
Weekend's not good for me.
Not good for you?
But, I mean, like, I'm also like, I don't need to see
Okay.
this. Like, I'm-
Okay.
Wait, so it sounds like you're okay. Angela, do you want to do the site visit? Like, who wants to do the site visit? How about you, Paul?
I am going for educational purposes only. I have no issue taking out the trees.
Okay.
So, Anna, what about you? Are you able to wind back to 4:30 or to?
So hold on. Oh, here we go. So my regular work schedule is until 5:30. I can try to be there as close to 5 as I possibly can because I'll try my best. Like I said, for me, I don't see the need for me to go there. It sounds like it's an educational issue where, I'm going to be shown some level 2 trees and I've already said where I stand on those.
Okay, so it sounds like-
I'm not really sure there's any benefit for me to be there in light of how I'm going to vote.
It sounds like we do not need the site visit, except for people that might want to arrange it separately for Becca, just to give us an education, which we can do on our own, which I may do sometime if, for my own purposes.
I'm always happy to walk around and look at trees.
All right, so.
I will say
The storm hasn't buried them or knocked them off. Every single tree is flagged. Matthew, I think with blue flagging.
Correct.
So
Are
if
they
you were to
different
drive
colors?
down, you could find them.
Are they different colors depending on the hazard rating?
No, towns tend to use orange and Eversource tends to use blue.
And Becca, I would not expect you to give me all 21 in category 2, but like if I can just get an understanding of where a couple of them are, that would be helpful. Again, I'm not worried about level 3. It's level 2 I want to look at.
So I do have I do have the tree list that Becca and Melissa and Jasmine have. They do not have the tree ratings on it. The tree ratings are something I did this week. But they are on my version of the list. It's easy enough to send that to Becca pretty quickly.
All right, so between now and our next meeting on the 12th, Matt said he can send out information for those who want to go visit certain sites at the trees, see if they can see it on their own. They can always contact Becca to see if she has an opportunity to point them out. Meanwhile, it sounded like there was a request to see if there can be either a fund or a number of replacement trees that could be donated for placement in the future, if that's something that can be looked into or a proposal made in that regard. Is there anything else we need to add to this? It doesn't sound like until we know that information, until people get a little bit more of a visual, that they're ready to vote on this. So we're going to continue it to the 12th with those two things. Anyone who wants to see the trees, either contact, I think through Jasmine, we'll send out information, whatever's information available. If you need more information than that, you can contact Becca. She will be, I'm sure, happy to talk, guide, show pictures, whatever. And in the meantime, we can also get some information from Matthew about a potential proposal for replacement trees that would be locations determined by Becca, and working with Becca on that. Is that acceptable?
I think that makes sense. I think when it comes to the tree replanting, it opens up a lot of just logistical questions. Like, for example, for the level 3 trees, I think we're all in agreement that it's beneficial for both Eversource and the town to have the level 3s removed. So because we agree that these are definitively hazard trees, I wouldn't be replacing. It's not a tree that would be replaced, if that makes sense. So I would not be enthusiastic about a 1-to-1 replacement, but if it's something that I'd be very happy to work out with Becca and follow her lead on what she wants.
I think that is fair.
I'd like to point out that I think if you said you planted 50 trees, it might go over really nice with the town, instead of just saying like, oh, we just replaced 21, even though we took down 46. And I did want to point out that Eversource made $1.7 billion in profit last year, so maybe you could do 50 trees. And that was up 800 million over the year before. So my electric bill went up. So
I'm always nervous to set a hard tree number in meetings like this, because I think it's a question. I think I prefer quality over quantity of trees, and planting locations, especially in forested towns, can be very limited. The other thing I wanted to say is, if anyone goes to look at these trees without me or Becca there, you are going to see painted trees that are painted for removal. These are trees that are located outside the road layout. The DCR, I sent a separate tree list to the DCR, which they approved. So there will be no trees painted for removal, obviously, until within the road layout until we reach a resolution.
Patricia, I have to speak up here, because we essentially had Eversource admit exactly what I'm saying, which is level 2 and 1 trees, they see no need to look at the same way, because guess what? Those are not immediate threat. So again, state law is going to be violated if those are removed, and I think the town is going to open itself up potentially to precedent that should not be opened up.
All right.
So frankly, just like Eversource does not want to create precedent and agree to a forested community is what we're being called. Yes, we are one of those few communities in the state of Massachusetts that have scenic routes protected by state law.
Yeah, understood.
Sorry, but that's a fact. And so if Eversource does not want the precedent to agree to plant trees, then I certainly am not going to have a precedent of violating state law for
All right,
those trees.
understood. I am looking for this to be continued to March 12th, unless someone has a unique argument to bring up. Is anyone interested in making that motion? I will make the motion. I'm going to make a motion that Eversource Scenic Roads hazardous tree removals be continued until our meeting on March 12th. Is there a second? Second, and a roll call vote.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky.
I don't understand, like, is the motion just to continue it? Or is
We're
it continuing
continuing
it based on coming back with those things that we asked for?
Well, they are going, we're going, as described earlier in the meeting. Matthew's going to come up with a proposal for the trees, working with Becca. Anyone who wants to can go to visit the trees, as we said before.
Then Scott Pelletier, aye.
All right.
Paul Montesino, aye.
Tricia Kendall, aye. That is continued to March 12th. Thank you, Becca and Matt, for the presentation.
Thank you guys for having me.
55
good
Tilton Avenue, this is being continued also until
March 12th.
March
they
12th.
requested,
We love
please.
March 12th.
I know.
I'm making a motion that 55 Tilton Avenue, special permit and site plan review be continued to March 12th. Is there a second?
Second that.
Roll call vote?
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Scott Pelletier, aye.
Paul Montesino, aye.
All right, that is continued to March 12th. 30 Memorial Drive, YMCA, we got a continuance on that.
March
I am making a motion that YMCA is being continued to March 12th. Is there a second?
Second that.
Roll call vote?
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Scott Pelletier, aye.
Paul Montesino, aye.
Tricia Kendall, aye. 240 to 260 Pleasant Street, site plan review, design plan review, and site alteration special permit. Also asked for a continuance. Did they look for a longer date or
March 26th.
To March 26th?
Yes.
Thank you. So continuing that to March 26th. Is there a second?
Second that.
And a roll call vote?
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Scott Pelletier, aye.
Paul Montesino, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. That's continued to March 26th. All right, so left on the agenda, we have any updates? Does anyone have any updates? We're not gonna do the planning board task list, obviously. There's no update on the community design review committee.
Not yet. We're
not
meeting
that-
with Lisa on this Wednesday.
Okay, so meeting with Lisa on Wednesday about that. CPC?
Yeah, we had a meeting and we voted on the second round of attempting to purchase a piece of property that is adjacent to the town forest. There's lots of conversation that went along with it. I don't need to get into all of it here, but it will come up in the town meeting. I would suggest everybody pay attention to this one when it comes up in the town meeting.
Okay.
It is very, it's not coming up the same way we did last time. And I don't know if it's been, I don't know when they have to put it out there, so I don't want to put it out in public. Well, I guess it was a public meeting, I don't know. But, so part of it was approving to have it appraised again and, basically making an offer, but if that doesn't work, then there's a possibility of eminent domain, which is going to change it in a very big way.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Thank you. Deepa, anything on Metro West?
We had a meeting yesterday, and it was about economic development, and I think it was an interesting topic. I learned a lot during that session and how economic development really works in a city, and I haven't been paying attention to how Ashland works, so I think I have a lot of follow-up questions with Jasmine and Yolanda to kind of really understand that, and I bring it in front of the board.
Does Beth go to those meetings as well, or?
Not usually. Now I go. Did she used to?
I'm not sure.
I don't know if I think Peter used to go.
Yeah, I think.
She does when she can.
Yeah.
Usually she
Okay.
can't.
Becca
just-
wasn't there yesterday.
Just curious.
Becca?
Did you say Becca? Who
Beth. Beth
I was asking
Reynolds.
if
Beth
No,
usually
she
doesn't
wasn't
go.
there. I haven't seen her on those meetings.
Yeah, I think Peter used to go when he was.
Just curious. Okay, great, thank you. Comprehensive plan, I assume we got that covered with the discussion earlier. All right, which leads us to meeting minutes. I had only one comment on there, and I don't remember where the page is, but at the very back, it was about 240 to 260, asking to be,
Continue?
asking me to continue to March 12th. Did we do that?
Oh, did we?
So that would have been the meeting
Yeah, that
minutes.
was the
And
meeting.
so were they continued to here, or did we, I think we talked a lot. We might have actually even redone it, but we might check on
I'll
that
double-check
to see where we actually continued them to.
What line are you referring to?
Line 100 and 101, it said we were continuing 240 to 260 Pleasant Street, to March 12th, but I think even they seem to understand that they were continuing.
I think we did go.
So I don't, and I think we kind of went back on our, we almost like we redid it at one time,
I'll double check.
but that's the only thing I noted on there. Anyone else have any changes for those meeting minutes?
No.
Okay. No other changes? All right, then I will make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from February 12th with the possible just checking on that one line
Yes.
about the March 12th. Is there a second?
Second that.
Roll call vote.
Deepa Venkata.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Scott Pelletier, aye.
Paul Montesino, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So is there anything else on this list anyone wants to?
Just one last thing, I'm so sorry, very briefly. Susan Thorne, in her email this evening, she sent it at 6:54 PM. She also says she's been invited to the Hopkinton Planning Board meeting March 9th and invited this board to attend to support. I don't, that's up to you, but it would have been past that date by your next meeting for me to tell you that, so.
Okay, so that's is that in the
That's in
letter
the email,
that
in the planning board, general
we all
planning board
received?
emails, but I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention.
that they can
was-
look at it
Yes,
and
please.
decide? Okay.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
but
much.
she invited us, right? Not
She invited us, not
Hopkinton Planning.
not Hopkinton, correct.
They don't
I don't,
even know, or, okay.
I don't think so. So,
Okay, anything else that anyone
no, thank you
needs to
so
bring up?
much.
Okay, then I will make a motion to adjourn at, I have no idea what time it is.
9:49.
At 9:49 PM. Is there a second?
Second that.
All right, roll call vote.
Deepa Venkata.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Scott Pelletier, aye.
Paul Montesino, aye.
Angel Kazadi and I. And Tricia Kendall, aye. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone.